All right, let's talk about something that sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie, but is actually grounded in decades of real hard science: magnetic medicine. So, can you really use magnets to treat something as complex as depression or PTSD? It sounds a little out there, right? But the answer is a resounding yes. We're not talking about your average refrigerator magnet, though. This is a highly precise, medically proven therapy. So, how on earth does it work? Well, the technology is called transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS for short. The key word here is non-invasive. That means no surgery, no anesthesia. You're literally just sitting in a chair, wide awake, while a device uses these incredibly focused magnetic pulses to gently stimulate and kind of retune very specific parts of your brain. And the side effects? For most people, it's just mild stuff, like a tapping sensation on your scalp or maybe a short-lived headache.
Okay, so where is the strongest proof? Let's start with depression. This is really the bedrock of all the evidence for TMS.
And let me be clear, this is not some brand new, unproven thing. We're talking about a treatment that got its first FDA green light for major depressive disorder way back in 2008. Over the years, more and more devices and methods have been cleared, and today it's considered a totally mainstream medical option, especially for people who haven't had much luck with medications. The amount of research backing this up is honestly staggering. I mean, just look at this. One landmark analysis, published in the super prestigious British Medical Journal, pooled together the data from over 100 separate clinical trials. 100! And that wasn't a one-off. Here's another massive review that looked at 81 trials, covering more than 4,200 individual patients. So you can see this isn't based on some tiny isolated study. This is a mountain of consistent, powerful evidence. So what did it all find? After sifting through all that research, the bottom line is crystal clear. TMS consistently and significantly works better than a placebo or a sham treatment. It helps people feel substantially better, and in many cases can even lead to remission, where the symptoms basically disappear. It's a really big deal. And here's where it gets really, really cool. The technology just keeps getting better. For years, a standard TMS session would take close to 40 minutes, but check this out. A huge, game-changing trial confirmed that a newer, highly focused protocol is just as effective, and it only takes 3 minutes. 3! That's an absolute game changer for making treatment faster and just way more accessible for people. All right, so depression is the solid foundation. But what about other conditions? Let's move on to the next expanding frontier: PTSD. Now, the evidence here is a bit newer, but it is getting more and more convincing with every high-quality study that comes out. And again, we're talking about randomized controlled trials, the gold standard of medical research. One of the most fascinating things we're seeing is how TMS can act like a booster for treatments that already work. So in one really important study, they took patients who were getting a top-tier psychotherapy called CPT. But they had one group also get TMS, and the result? The group that got both treatments saw a much, much greater reduction in their PTSD symptoms. It basically made a great therapy even better. And you might be wondering, okay, but does this only work for one specific group of people? Nope. The results hold up across the board. Take a look here. Whether we're talking about combat veterans or civilians using different types of TMS protocols, the conclusion is always the same. The real, active TMS treatment was more effective than the sham one. So we've established that it works, but the really big question is how, right? How does a magnet actually change what's happening inside your brain? And maybe more importantly, why do those changes seem to last? It really all boils down to restoring communication. You can think of it like this. In conditions like depression and PTSD, some of the brain's wiring gets a little faulty. The communication between key areas just isn't running smoothly. So TMS comes in and sends these gentle magnetic pulses to key spots in the prefrontal cortex, kind of waking them up and improving their activity. And what happens? That helps restore the balance and get the whole network communicating properly again, which in turn helps regulate things like mood and how we respond to threats. Okay, let's pull back and look at the big picture. Where does TMS really fit in the world of modern medicine? So what are the huge takeaways here? First, it's non-invasive. It's also really well tolerated. Any side effects are usually super mild and don't last long. And serious problems? Extremely rare. Plus, like we said, the new sessions can be incredibly fast. And maybe most importantly, it's a real, powerful option for people who've tried medications and felt like they'd hit a dead end. But you don't just have to take my word for it. This quote from the research world really sums it all up perfectly. Taken together, TMS is an effective, well-tolerated treatment for depression, and in PTSD, multiple randomized trials and recent meta-analyses show meaningful symptom reductions. That's about as clear as it gets.
Which leaves us with one last, really exciting thought. We now have this incredible tool that can literally, physically retune brain circuits without any surgery. So, with that power, what could be next? What other tough-to-treat conditions could this powerful technology help with? That is the question researchers are diving into right now.